let's get started. So interesting enough, I had set this devotion up a while back before all this actually occurred. And it was basically to ask what's ailing you. So many times we come along the Christian walk, and whether it be physical sickness, spiritual sickness, maybe mental sickness, we come into things that we, in and of ourselves, are not able to handle or take care of. And interesting enough, the coronavirus is one of those things. There's a lot of uncertainty, as we can see, with this virus as it moves throughout globally. We really don't know some of the answers to what's going to come up in the future after social distancing. What then? Will there be a summer spike? Is this a seasonal thing? Will it be able to mutate? How soon before we get an actual vaccine that the whole population has access to? Interesting enough, they've already started working with a novel vaccine, or I guess you could say a potential vaccine for this with some candidates in Washington. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. But ultimately, God is in control, and some of these verses actually speak to that. And so, in Matthew, when it talks about some verses there where basically showed that the Old Testament was being some of the prophecies that were being fulfilled in the New Testament, it tells us in Matthew that he took our illnesses and he bore our diseases. Basically what had taken place in Matthew here was Jesus had just been to Peter's house, and Peter's mother-in-law was actually lying in bed with a fever. And she was very ill, she was very sick, and basically he touched her hand, and she was automatically healed at that particular time. She got up and she actually began serving Jesus and the people within the house. And so that's kind of the story there. And, before Matthew 8:14, there's actually the teaching or the verses there that speaks to a Roman person who was high up in the Roman military that had actually come along and asked Jesus to heal his servant. And it spoke of his faith. His faith was so strong that Jesus said, well, let me go and see him. And the guy said, basically, I don't deserve you to come to where I'm at, and I don't deserve you to even set foot in my house. If you will just speak it to be done, I have faith that my servant will be healed. And God, Jesus, was actually amazed at his level of faith, and he spoke those words, and the Roman leader actually went home and his servant had been healed. And the servant was actually paralyzed. But anyway, I say all that to say this, that God's got this, he's in control. And it shows through here that he can heal every disease, he can heal every affliction. And basically it says if we are sick, to call upon him, cast our cares upon him, in prayer and consideration, to basically, through our faith, that he will heal us and bring us through this time. So I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but just stay strong. I put a song down there by Jeremy Camp. I don't know if there's any relation there. I guess distantly there would be ultimately, but it's called The Same Power, and it just speaks about the power that he had that we hear of in the Bible is the same power that he still demonstrates as being God of the universe. And so maybe listening to that song may encourage you today with all that's going on. So here are our objectives. So, we talked about the cardiovascular system before we went on spring break, and now we're going to talk about the peripheral vascular, a much less complicated lecture than the cardiovascular system. If you have questions as you come along, please post those to the discussion board on Blackboard, because many people probably have some of the same thoughts or concerns that you do. I have been trying to check that, and I will check that after the lecture again today, and periodically check that 1 or 2 times a day and try to get answers. And everybody should be able to see those threads. It should be open to everybody. If you have a problem seeing those threads, please let me know, and I will go in and look at that. So why do we worry about peripheral artery disease, peripheral venous disease?